Hello, 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 and welcome to My Empty Hands, a martial arts podcast with a focus on Kempo. I am, as always, Reggie Darden, and I am quite honored to have Mr. Dennis Conatser with me today. And we're gonna talk some Kempo and just kind of get into things here. I usually start off with giving the brief history of my background. I'll just give the super quick version and saying that I have advanced ranks in both, I guess, Chinese Kempo and American Kempo, and advanced ranks in Capoeira, and not so advanced ranks in Taekwondo, Hapkido, and I've also done some boxing. So, that's the Cliff Notes version of my background. So, before we started recording here, we mentioned that your story has been kind of gone over a million times. So I'm thinking that we'll kind of change things here and not get too much into it. But maybe if you want to kind of go into just a brief synopsis of how you got involved in Kempo, how Kempo found you.
I started studying in Tempe, Arizona when I was going to college playing football, 1971, and always had an interest in the martial arts. Always wanted to, for some reason, I was into breaking. I don't know why. It was kind of got into it in high school, I guess. One of my classmates in high school, his brother was in the Air Force, and so we'd go to shop and we'd break, pine wood and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, oh, this is kind of cool, So I need to know that, what goes on here a little more. So happened to see a school, walked in it, and boom, there was a 5-lesson introductory thing. So we went through that and, signed up in that and got going there. So the rest is history. I just got into it, and got an injury in football. So I decided I should have kept going with that. I would have made more money. But, it is what it is. So I've been pretty blessed with Kempo. Started with a man named Lonnie Coots. I was his second black belt. He was under Gary Swan, who was under Steve LeBounty, who was under Mr. Parker. And I kind of worked my way back accidentally from Lonnie. He decided to go back in the military. And after I got my black belt, I started studying with his instructor, Gary Swan, who's in Universal City, Texas, down there. I think he sold his school now, but he's still down there. He's been still teaching them, I understand. And then he and I had some disagreements, and I was able to, study with Steve LeBounty, until his death. Actually, prior to his death, and got to start studying with Mr. Parker in 1978 till he died in 90. So I was pretty fortunate, to be with Mr. Parker and pretty much know everybody, Huck and Sullivan and Sepulveda and the late Bob White now. There's a lot of, passed away. LeBounty, Tom Kelly passed away, so on and so forth, so I was able to, work with them at various times in camps and things. So it was great. It was a good journey. Got to be able to travel to Europe with Mr. Parker and Skip Hancock, myself, and Lee Wedlake went over there. And then I was able to go down to New Zealand and Australia on another trip. That time I was with Frank, my buddy, Trejo. And so it's been good, all over Canada and Mexico and of course the United States. So it's it's been fun.
Very nice, very nice. Now, so when you met Mr. Parker, kind of maybe get a little more kind of focused on how did that meeting come about? How did that go? Maybe some of your kind of impressions of him before before you met him,
Well,
and then after you met
I
him.
think I met him in 1972 at the Internationals. I was I can't remember, orange or purple belt. And, I met him there. I didn't, and along with a lot of other guys. But there I met him. And then eventually, a few years later, brought him out to my school in Scottsdale, Arizona for a seminar. And so got to know him even more. But I wasn't studying with him. I just facilitated a seminar, for the local Arizona guys. And so we obviously knew each other. And he was at the school with me, and had some interesting stuff. We were on a break. He was waiting for a guy to come and pick him up, one of the black belts, to take him to lunch. So while we're doing that, it was just him and I in the school, and he's walking around my school, looking at this and that. Well, what's this for, and what's that for? And he shows me the universal pattern that I had up on the wall, had a plaque of the universal pattern. And he goes, "What's this?" I go, "Oh, Mr. Park, come on, you know what this is. It's the universal pattern, And he goes, "Yeah, but do you know what it means?" I go, "Well, yeah, it's a lot of angles of, attack and defense, and that not." I said I really don't know that much about it, but I got the general gist of it. And he says, "Well, it's this heart that's on here," and I had it turned incorrectly. And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, that's I usually have the heart up because that's symbolic of that your heart's alive. If it's on the side, it's kind of dead. But you can leave it like that if you want." And he walked off. And I'm going, okay. So anyway, the guy came shortly after and picked him up. So as soon as he left, went out and got my drill, right, moved that sucker right to the way it was supposed to be. So that was kind of an interesting story that I had with him, at that point, so. And I was what the heck was I at that time? I think I was a second brown at that time. I was either a third or second brown. I can't remember which. But I was a brown belt, I know. And so that was kind of a start, So we kind of knew each other. And I'd seen him in tournaments. He'd referee a couple of matches and stuff, So over, up from 71 to 78, I, ran into him all the time. And he was, of course, in our lineage. So obviously everybody knew who he was. We didn't have the Grandmaster baloney and all that stuff, which everybody's getting, I don't know if anybody's not a Grandmaster today. So, it's, but back then it was just Mr. Parker, and continued to be that way, even for the past, geez, it'll be 34 years now, this December. So, and I'm good friends with Edmund. I gave Mr. Parker, I sold him actually his first computer because I had
Nice.
I had an IBM, and I got talked into getting a clone, which had a little more, power, and than hard drives were coming up. When I got my first IBM, they go, "Well, we've got a 10 megabyte hard drive here. You'll never be able to fill this up," and it's like, okay, well, hell, that didn't take more than 2 or 3 months, and it was like, well, what the heck's, I don't have any room in here. What's going on? So anyway, so then the clones came out, and I'm going, somebody goes, "Look, you can put, two 10 megabyte hard drives in there." And I'm not even sure if 20s were out yet at that point. But so I go, "Yeah, I'll do that." And I had this, slightly used IBM. I told Mr. Parker, "Yeah, you got to get a clone." He goes, "Nope, nope, nope, nope. I want an IBM. I got to have an IBM." He's got to have a name brand, And I go, "Well, yeah, I'll sell you my old one, at, a cheap price." And I did went over and showed Edmund how to start it, basically, because they didn't know anything about them. And hell, after that, then Edmund kind of took off, and he switched over to the Apple stuff, because that's what a lot of artists use.
Yeah.
In print shops and things like that. So, and then he's totally surpassed that since, in the last, 40 years now. He's just became an incredible artist. I mean, he can draw anyway, just freehand. He's incredible that way. But with a computer, it's even more. He understands layers and all that stuff. And you know, I started working on CADs early on, and I did my first website on Netscape. Netscape had I don't know how far you go with that,
Oh
but
yeah, no, I'm familiar with that. So
so
I'm older than I look. I think so.
yeah, so I made my first websites and learned about HTML and all that kind of stuff. I'm going, wow, this is really cool. So I started, kind of made stuff, and today it's just like I have to have somebody do mine. In fact, my site's down right now because of redoing some stuff and updating it. So I got to have a guy that does it. And it's way different now, and you got to kind of keep up with it. It's like medicine. You got to keep up with everything. So
Yeah, yeah, for
but
sure.
but anyway, so away we roll, and just teaching Kempo and going from there. One of the becoming one of the few guys left that actually. It's amazing how many people never met Ed Parker that I run into, much less study with him. So I mean, Chuck Sullivan's kind of the senior guy. Him, Danny Inisano, are two seniors we just lost. Joe Demick,
Mhm.
ways back. He's the one that looked like he was a Clint Eastwood double. He used to work with Clint Eastwood, actually.
Oh, very nice.
So we all would look at him. In fact, funny story. I was at the first internationals, and I see this guy coming, and I'm going, "Wow!" So I walk up to him because Mr. Parker had celebrities at the tournament a lot of times, and I go, "Hey, Mr. Eastwood, how you doing?" He laughs, and he goes, "I'm not Clint Eastwood. I'm Joe Demick." I go, "Oh man, I'll tell you what, you look exactly like Clint Eastwood." Well, myself and probably everybody else told him that, which then prompted him over the next few years to start a business called Demick's Doubles, where he had all kinds of, I mean, the Grout, the Marx Brothers, Marilyn Monroe, yeah, just all kinds of doubles. So if somebody wanted Groucho Marx at their party, or or Richard Nixon, or some celebrity, he had a whole stable of people that he would hire out, and he made a pretty good living doing it. He actually got to work with Clint Eastwood actually on some movies as well, and double for him. So he actually got to meet Clint. We actually worked with him, and so because I mean, honest to God, he looked shit. He looked exactly. I mean, he wasn't quite the same monotone. The tonality was a little bit
Hmm.
different, the speech, but his looks were incredible. I mean, it was just, and he was able to buy a ranch and put his daughter through college and all kinds of things. So he did quite well. I'm really sad that he died. He was a good friend.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's unfortunate. That we're
It's
losing a
life.
lot of the people that were there, but that's kind of
Yep.
one of the reasons why I'm trying to talk to everybody is let's try and get these stories from the people before they're gone, and instead of talking about it
Sure.
after the fact. So uh, yeah, no, just trying to get all those stories out there. So
It's good. Yeah, Peter Taz is now doing doing some podcasts. And I was able to meet Peter. He was a brown belt when I met him when I went down to Melbourne, which is kind of the southeast corner of Australia. We had to fly. They flew me down from Sydney to Melbourne. Then we drove to their school down there and did a seminar down there. So I met him years ago, and then subsequently he's moved on. Now he's with Graham Lilliot, and so he's studying. I met Graham when he was in Jersey, one of the Channel Islands off the coast of France, between France and England. In oh God, when was it? 1980. I want to say 86. In that general area there, give or take a couple of years. So I met Graham there and Roy McDonald, which you may or may not have heard or talked about. I'm not sure who's on your list.
I have. Well, I've had Peter Taz on the show before. I have reached out to Graham, so haven't got a confirmation yet if he'll be
Right.
on. But I think when I reached out to him, he was in the middle of traveling. So
Right.
hopefully I'll have him on soon. But
Well,
yeah.
there's a bunch of guys out there, yet. So some I
Mhm.
like, some I don't like. But I mean, they're all Keppel people. So, but they're just doing, their version or what they know about, and they see, go from there. So that's all that is. Yeah,
Mhm.
they're gonna, people they're gonna like your, me for example. Either they like me or they hate me. One or the other. It's going to be kind of a love hate thing. So, and I use that word hate real loosely. That's probably not a great term. People just may not be into my cup of tea. So which I think is more accurate than a lot. It's like that article I was telling you about that we just posted on. So I can't remember the guy posted, but it was something to the effect of, why aren't people working on basic anatomical movements and gestures? And since I was a phys ed major, with human anatomy and physiology and kinesiology, I mean, I was going to be a coach, football, basketball, baseball. I didn't know it was going to be this, but it works the same, just a different topic, because it's still physical. I don't care if you're kung fu, if you're judo, if you're kung fu, it doesn't matter. Mono, black, white, Asian, it doesn't make any difference. It's all the same. And so a lot of things are very important. I mean, stances are, footwork's the most important. Mr. Parker had a lot of priorities on the system, and so I've got a lot of what I call Mr. C's keys, and they're basically stuff they're in the books and stuff. People just don't read them, and they don't have instructors that teach them about this stuff and what it actually means. And yeah, they're so into the technique sequences, because that's what gives you rank. Is you got to have these techniques and these forms. Well, yeah, those are good, but everything is, are when I give a seminar for black belts, for example, and I'll say, what's all the material from white to black? What's the initial purpose? The initial keyword is initial. What's the main initial purpose of all that material? Techniques, forms, sets, basics, everything. What's the initial purpose? And I'll get a myriad of answers. Well, it's to teach you concepts and principles, and all of which is right. But the main thing that stuff does, the initial thing, is teaching you coordination. If you're not coordinated, I don't care how many principles and concepts you know, you've got to be able to put them into application. And so you've got to, Mr. Parker say, how much Kempo do you know of? Well, there's a lot of people know of a lot of Kempo. Then the next question is, yeah, okay, well, how much do you actually know? And then we'll go into it a little deeper. And then how much can you actually apply? And now it gets a little deeper yet, and then eventually how much do you actually know and, know about it, and how much can you teach? And so, there's several layers there going, so the whole general populace out there knows of Kempo. There's no doubt. I mean, in some shape or form, it's there. And the question is, how good are they? What's their actual? As you look at the techniques, I just got a book. One of my students sent me a book, Elbow Boxing, and I'm going. So I look at this book, and I read it in 5 minutes. Basically, it's not a real big book to start with, but the thing is, all it is a bunch of elbows, and how to use your elbows. Well, hell, we do that all the time, so, in fact, on a trip to England, Skip, myself, and Lee Wedlake were on a plane, and somebody, one of them, Skip or Lee, one, brought an issue of Black Belt magazine or Karate Illustrated, and somebody in there said, "Oh yeah, Kempo doesn't work close in. It's weakest close in." And we're going, what? What the hell? So we ended up this whole week tearing this guy's article apart, and out of that trip came the dimensional stages of action: out of range, in range, contact penetration, and contact manipulation. And they're all different ranges, and so as to where Ron Chappelle kind of got the sub-level 4, it was kind of a inspiration to get into that a little bit more and go into a little bit deeper, each one of those categories, and to get into things. So quite interesting, actually. But a lot of people don't even know about this stuff. They're so focused on doing all. Well, I got to have the 7. I got to have the 8. Everybody survived fine before any of that stuff was even developed. And several other things. I've created 2 sets myself. Understand? I've created 2 sets myself, understanding and seeing some of the things that are missing. For example, we don't have a set with all our 2-man attacks. So I created a multiple assailant form, and I have another form that's all against kicks, and we don't have a set that's against specifically kicks. So, and the books I'm writing, if I ever get around to finishing them, which I'm the captain of procrastination, I guess, but everybody's bugging me for them, and I'm bugging myself for them too. It's just a matter of getting down and doing it.
I can definitely relate. I'm actually surprised that I have a show. As before I started this, I was very much like, what, I just need to go ahead and do it and not talk or think about it and just get out there and do it.
I remember when you were starting it, then after watching you here for, I don't know, a couple months, 2-3 months here, you've done quite well, actually. So, yeah, and there's a lot of people out there doing it already anyway, but each one brings something possibly new to the table, so you might tell a story on this one that I didn't talk to on the Hall of Fame, so whatever, you may as well do it,
Yeah, no, my kind of thought process for this is just doing it for myself, and sharing it with others is just a bonus. I'm just interested in getting these stories and meeting all these people for myself. So we're definitely going to have some overlap on as far as the stories and things like that, and as we go along, we can get into other things, but
it's all good, so it's I'm thinking about starting a site like Facebook called Kempo and Friends Social, and it's basically like Truth Social, like Trump started, and after he got promoted, he stole a business here about 6-8 months ago, I think. He sold Truth Social, but he still got stock in it, right? It's public. And he just got elected president. You know what he made on that day when he got elected? $1 billion out of Truth Social. Now, that's kind of motivation to do what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now maybe $1 billion is not going to come around. Maybe it is. But what if 900,000 comes around? I'll tell you what, I wouldn't kick that out the door.
No, I'm right there with you on that one.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
Technology's there. AI is coming in. So It's stunning. Anyway, I'll let you. I'm sorry to be such a blabbermouth here.
No. I love it. I love, say whatever you like. One thing that's great about this show is that Kempo people like to talk, and so that makes my job easier.
Yeah.
But
Well, if you have any questions, I'll direct it to you. Say, hey,
uh,
what interests you? What are some things you're interested in
oh
finding out from me?
Well, one thing I'd like to know, since since you didn't kind of realize that Kempo was going to be kind of your life to start. When you got after you were doing it for a while, like when did the teaching side, like were you always interested in being a teacher, or did that kind of come
Well,
later?
like I said, I was going to be a coach. That's what I was going to school for, was phys ed. I was going to teach football and basketball, and I was playing, football. When I went to college, uh, I mean, in high school I was a letterman, but going to college is a little bit different. You step up every time you go, and then honestly, I found out real quick I was running a halfback behind a two-time All-American, Jimmy Smith, a little black guy that so hey, man, he's by you. And it's like, holy crap, and I didn't have that kind of running ability, but my next door neighbor was a guy named Ed Beverly who got drafted by the 49ers. So I was able to be around a lot of these guys in the gym and stuff. And of course, they all harassed me because I'm Mr. Marshmallow and stuff. And they're all these buff, you know, muscular dudes. And I was all right, but I wasn't as big as they were. And these guys are good. They're all Americans and obviously wanted to be pro. I did pretty well behind Jimmy, but and I was great. I love being a linebacker. I love hitting people. And I averaged my senior year of actually having one guy carried out per game, the year, which was kind of mean actually, but then you look at some of the great linebackers like oh God, what's his name from the Jets, or what was his name? I can't remember. The Raider. I mean, there's so many of them. Lyle Alzado and some of these guys that were with the Oakland Raiders. I mean, you could go through all these guys. J.J. Watts now, current guy. Yeah, these guys are good. So anyway, I did that. But answering your question, yeah, I was going to be a teacher to start. So everything just fell right into place. I just used it for Kempo, and when I quit playing football and got an injury on my leg, and so avoided the draft because I had this injury, and got into Kempo. And honestly, I was like everybody else. I was focused on getting my orange belt. Once I got my orange belt, man, I was focused on getting my purple belt. Started doing tournaments, and that was kind of horrifying in the beginning. But then I started winning. I'm going, man, this is cool, and it just kept going. So I mean, I never my goal was not to be a high ranking black belt or anything like that. I mean, ultimately, I wanted to get a black belt because I understood you're supposed to be a badass, when you get that, which I then found out that that's not true. There's a lot of badass guys that aren't even in Kempo or martial arts. Like a good example, Mike Tyson. I'm looking forward to his fight coming up here at 50. How old is he? 56, 58 years old. 56, 58. I can't remember.
I
But
think he's
like,
59 actually, but
well,
I may be wrong.
somewhere,
But
yeah, somewhere right in there. And he looks great. I mean, I watched some of his training stuff. He looks like he's back in his 20s. Hell, I don't want to come against Mike. Iron Mike. I mean, yeah, there's that same article I was talking about. Steve Stewart up in Canada, was saying, well, when you get older, this goes and that goes, this goes and that goes, which is all probably true. But I'll tell you what, this younger guy doesn't toast Mike right away. I mean, George Foreman kind of came back and said, yeah, you can do pretty good, in your 50s, and so it'll be entertaining at least. And I know I think you call it a circus. which it probably is. They're after a few bucks, and Mike's got a reputation of trying to make a few bucks to pay for his house and kids and in Vegas. But so good on him.
Yeah,
If he can.
the money is definitely a motivating factor, and
Yeah,
I don't
sure.
think anyone, I mean, I'm just assuming if it were me and I was Mike Tyson, I wouldn't want to tarnish my legacy by getting beat by a YouTube guy. So,
Yeah, well, that's true. On the other hand, what I don't know, and maybe you don't know, is we don't know what his financial status is. Maybe he needs the money. Maybe he's got a big house and cars and everything
mhm,
else. I mean, he's not like Shaq.
mhm.
Shaq's pitching everything. God, every time you turn around, he's pitching something. So he's making more money now than he ever made playing basketball. And he was, and he, I mean, if you ever get a chance to stand by Shaq, how tall are you?
I am 5'11".
Okay, you're going to look like a midget. You know, my
Yeah.
son's 5'11", and he was working at a restaurant in Florida. And Shaq came in, took a picture with him, and I'm going, holy crap, this guy is huge. I mean, he's wide, he's 7'2" or whatever. I mean, no wonder you can't. I mean, there's no way you can stop a guy like that.
Yeah,
You know,
well, I'm hoping to run into him. I believe semi recently he bought a house out in my area, so hopefully I'll run into him somewhere. And
yeah, it's Muhammad Ali used to live not very far from me in Scottsdale, and we're sitting there. I was with one of my students eating sushi, and he comes walking by with his it's either his daughter or his wife. I'm not sure which. And he's going to get a haircut because his barber shop was right there. And so we go, that's Muhammad Ali. I can't believe it. And so we finished eating, went in the shop to maybe take a picture with him. And he had a towel wrapped around his face, to get a shave and stuff, a hot towel. And he had a bunch of pictures in there of him boxing. And they say, can we take a picture? And he goes, well, we'd rather not, he's a client. We don't want him to be bothered. We get it. Thank you. We walked out. We didn't bother him. So, but it was, I mean, you never know when you're going to run into, some of these guys. I used to work back in the 70s, in the 70s, late 70s. I was doing some celebrity bodyguard stuff. And I worked with, my favorite was Elton John. So I was able to work with Elton John and Jean-Claude Van Damme. Frank Trejo and I work with Jean-Claude, and so I mean, several others, a lot of rock groups you may or may not know about, Iron Butterfly and the Bee Gees and, some of them. So it was interesting, but they're just like you and me. They just happen to have a talent, that's make a lot of money. I mean, Ed Parker was dealing with Elvis, and I never got a chance to meet Elvis. Mr. Parker called me up once, and he said, "Hey, well, I'm in Vegas. You want to come over? I can introduce you to Elvis." And I go, "Oh God, Mr. Parker, I've got this date with this hot chick tonight, and man, I've been working on her forever. Biggest mistake of my life. Little did I know, if I would have been with Elvis, I could have probably got 1,000 hot chicks, And so next thing I know, I think, well, I'll get him next time. He's in Vegas all the time, and he dies. Well, sucks to be me. I got an opportunity to meet Elvis and screwed the pooch on that one. So it didn't work out. But c'est la vie.
yeah, no, I can certainly relate. I won't get into it at the moment. I have a story about meeting Cynthia Rothrock, and I'm working to try and get her on the show so that we can discuss this. But
She
yeah,
was
I had a
dating.
story
I
like
met
that.
her. I met her in Oakland, California, when she was with the West Coast demo team with uh, Reyes, and they came to Arizona to one of my I was tied in with the Fiesta Bowl. I had the Fiesta Bowl Karate Classic, and they came to my school. Her and George Chung, she was dating George at the time, and I taught them both short three in my studio. And then
Oh,
there's
very cool.
people that
I
are
didn't know that.
national champs. Yeah, it was several years ago. I'm not sure she's went on to make a lot of movies and do a lot of stuff. Since I'm still a fan of hers and friends with her, but I haven't spoken to her face to face in several years. But I saw her numerous times, in tournaments and stuff back then when they were competing. She was a dancer. Her ex-husband was a dancer. She lived in on the East Coast, and then she got divorced and moved out west and hooked up with the West Coast demo team. Met George, and they dated for God, I don't know. As far as my memory allows, probably 2, 3, 4 years. Now George is, I think, the head of Black Belt Magazine or something. I think he bought Black Belt Magazine or whatever. I'm not exactly sure, but and Cynthia's making movies, left and right, and swimming in the oceans and doing all kinds of stuff, So
Yeah, if
she's
you're
doing
following her on Facebook, she's and Instagram, she's very busy. So,
she's a beautiful woman. She's a nice person too, and very talented.
yeah,
She's
yeah. When I
she was
met
able to
her,
do
yeah,
both
she
movies.
was way more nice than I would have expected. So, yeah, those good times. So I wanted to kind of take things back on your journey a little bit. Can you talk about your time competing and kind of how that went? For me, I've been a spectator at many events, but I've only competed myself in a handful of them. I've toyed with the idea of maybe getting back into it a little bit, but we'll see. But yeah, just what was it like for you competing and
Well, I think I was competitive to start, and going to the tournament. My first tournament, we had a little inter-school tournament, and we had a I don't know, 1,500 square foot studio, and it was packed. But there was probably, and we only had like 2 or 3 schools in the area that we invited, Kempo schools, and I was an orange belt, and I was horrified to get out and do forms. I went and locked myself in the bathroom until the forms divisions were done, so nobody could use the bathroom until I went out. I go, oh, it's occupied, occupied. I go, who's in there? Dennis. What are you doing in there? You've been in there for an hour. I know, I'm just having some issues. I was making excuses, and finally the forms was over. So I came out and fought. Fighting was okay, but I didn't want to do forms. It freaked me out.
what do you think? What do you think was the reason behind that?
Just lack of confidence, just scared, you know. And so, which is really weird because fighting scares a lot of people. So they'd rather do forms, they'd rather be a fairy godmother, as we so call them if you're a fighter. You got the fairy godmothers, which are all the forms people.
Mm-hmm.
And, George Chung, Cynthia, she was never a fighter. She could fight. I mean, somewhat. They obviously, you're obviously going to be able to fight, but most of her stuff was all forms, and she was very good at that. So you kind of do with what's good, what you're comfortable with. So anyway, I came out of the bathroom, and my instructor at the time, Lonnie, says, what are you doing in there? He said, you missed the forms. Well, the next tournament you're doing forms. I'm going, oh, man. And so I went out and I fought, and I fought a guy named Dick Gandera. He was a purple belt. I was an orange belt. And I didn't realize, but he was a state champ just like a month or two before. And he was, a Mexican guy that was, pretty buff. He looked like Joe Louis. That was one of his idols was, the Karate Joe Louis. And I went out there and I swept him and dumped him because early on I was doing sweeps. Breaking and sweeps just enamored me. And it just infuriated him. And he just ran my butt out the studio the next clash we had. And eventually won. We eventually became good friends, but I went to fighting. And from there, the next tournament came around. So I did forms. And I got third place. And I'm going, wow, hey, maybe this ain't so bad. Maybe if I put a little more effort into this, I could, do better. And so I mean, I was from orange belt on, I was a tournament maniac. I'd travel to California, even if it was by myself. I'd travel to California. I'd try to grab another student to go with me, and stuff. We go to Vegas, we go to California, we go to Colorado, go to Texas. Oh man, Texas, woo. And those guys, Mr. Parker used to say, light contact in Texas, at least back then, was when you're light on your feet before you hit the floor. I mean, we're talking some of the greats back then, Skipper Mullins and Dennis Conatser, and a lot of the TKI. Roy Kerben and I got to be good friends, who I think is in the Dallas-Fort Worth area over there. He's a legend. He's a judge, but back then he was a great fighter. And I got to know Roy very well. I met him in Colorado actually as a purple belt. I asked him if he'd work with me a little bit, and he just kicked the shit out of me. I mean, not in a bad way, but just I'm going, wow. And he's lanky and he had great legs, and I'm a purple belt. What do I know? I suck. But anyway, I won that tournament, and it was amazing. So I don't know. I just got the bug, and anytime there's a tournament, man, I'm looking in Black Belt Magazine. When's the next tournament here? Where can I go to? Where we're going to go. So it just kind of perpetuated itself, and I had a lot of success. I got a little 500 so trophies. And it was like, but I was just competing so much that it was just, I don't know. I just liked it. It was just, I think the thrill of winning a trophy was big. And I didn't really look at at the time, I didn't really look at the other aspects that I was really getting, self-confidence and other things that are actually way more important than the trophy, of which I have none now because one of my exes decided to throw them all out. So I had to take 3 truckloads to the dump, because she didn't want them in the house. They're too much to dust.
Mm-hmm. At least you have the memories.
Yeah.
That's
So
more.
I just enjoyed it. Got into breaking, and until I go this, then I realized, this is nuts, because I kind of go to the extremes. The toughest break I ever broke was a 2x4, and I'm going, Kyokushinkai guys do it all the time. They'll grab a couple of baseball bats and do a roundhouse kick with their shins, and I'm going, no way, my legs are broken now. I'm too old to do that now, but even back then, I don't want to kick a baseball bat with my shin. What are you, nuts? But everything else, yes, I was doing head breaks. Did 6 inches of breaks with my head. I did my biggest depth break was 22 inches, and I didn't use spacers. It was all brick on top of brick, and they were the lawn bricks, the heavy concrete things. They weren't that easy. I look back and I amaze myself. But the thing is, I got smart. I'm going, every time I hit those bricks to my head or my knuckles or whatever, I'm screwing up my body. When I get older, I'm not going to be able to, my hands are going to be like this. So I kind of quit it, before I really got too injured. You know what I mean? So I did it. I think now you've heard a lot about. I don't know if you've done any breaking. You probably have.
Very little bit. Very, very little bit.
What's the purpose of it? I'm going to put you on the spot.
I think probably more than any. Well, of course, it depends on who you talk to. I think for me, I think more than anything, it's probably a confidence builder, and building up that internal side to do something physical. As far as actual physical conditioning, I'm not really of the mind that destroying your body to improve your physical conditioning is the way to go.
Well, you don't need to destroy it. And I'll tell you the main purpose of it, if it's taught properly, which I learned. And what it does is it teaches you how to follow through, how to penetrate. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And when you first start, you're going to hit a brick and you go, oh, that's a damn brick, man. Man, it's my hand. I'm not going to hit that, or my head, or whatever, my elbow, or my foot, or whatever. Even boards. 1-inch boards. You're Mr. Parker's got a video out there with. He's got a white uniform on. He's with I think Toki Hill, who was a good competitor at the time. He's holding I think I think he did 1 and 3. Mr. Parker does a bunch, which he used to do a lot of. He rarely did it in the 70s and 80s. He just got older and quit doing it. But could he do it? Yes. And does he have penetration? Yes. That's the point, is to teach you penetration, not the fact of I'm getting a trophy, and it does build confidence. There's no doubt about that. But if you could break 3 boards with a punch, you could probably break somebody's ribs. And so I think the real reason, I ask a lot of people, most of the time, 80% of the time, I get anything but the right answer. And it's to teach you that penetration to drive through. Yeah, there's a certain amount of conditioning you need to do. It also depends on what you break with. Hammer fits are not too deadly, although I did break my little bone in the where your sword hand is, right there. I had a breaking competition in one of my tournaments, and nobody could break them. So Mr. Cool Guy is going to go out there and break them and show everybody how to do it. Hell, all I did was break my hand. What an idiot. And I didn't break the bricks. So, there's other lessons learned out of that as well. You know what I mean? Remember, man, that there are flesh and bone. You're not iron.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
it's anyway. It's good to teach some. Do you need to do a whole lot of it? No, not really. But it's good to do some when you do it for the right reason. What one of my coolest things was learning how to stack like 4 or 5 bricks up,
Mm-hmm.
not spaced, no pencils, no quarters, no nothing, between them, just cleaned off and brick on brick. And then Reggie's gonna tell me, can you break the 3rd brick down? That one, only that one. And I was able to do that. And I can't, I can't do it consistently, but I could do it more consistent than not. And it's like, honestly, I don't know. I don't exactly know. It has to do with how hard you hit, because when you break a board or a brick, you got it laying here. What breaks first, the top or the bottom?
I would think the top, but that's probably not.
Think about it. If you have a pencil going across and you press on the pencil, what's going to break first?
It breaks towards the bottom.
The bottom. You put pressure down from the top, it actually makes the pencil bow. Same thing happens with boards and bricks. They actually, you don't see them bow, but that's way. And if you look at them on camera, on slow-mo, it's the bottom that breaks up. Because the bricks are actually being bent, which doesn't make sense in our brains that you can bend a brick. So, but there's a whole science to tamashawari, which is what it's called in Japanese, the art of brick breaking. and breaking rocks and stuff. It's actually kind of cool. It's fun to do, and you can do it without injuring yourself if you have somebody who knows how to do it. I was into breaking river rock for a while, which I thought was impossible. I saw somebody do it. Then I learned the trick. Same thing with ice breaks, things like that. There's methods. Here's a good word. There's technique to it all. You got to know the right technique. Otherwise, you're going to get hurt. Yeah, you probably will.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Sure.
it's part of that. So I don't know if that's interesting or not. I kind of get off on these tangents.
No. That's very cool. Yeah, in my early days, seeing the breaking it was always very exciting for me. I didn't really get into it just because I was very very shy, very much a wimp, or whatever whatever term you want to use. So I only I
I
definitely
got
didn't
picked
get
on in high
past
school.
doing some board. Only did few boards, never any brick or anything like that. So yeah,
It's
that's
not as
very
bad
cool.
as you think. It's just a matter of being taught right. I used to do fire breaks. I'd set them on fire and break them. You don't have much time there because you got this flame coming through. I mean, you can start a flame on fire, stick your hand in there. As long as you just go, bring your hand through, it's not going to hurt anything.
Mhm.
It's when you leave your hand in there for 2 minutes that's when you got problems. So
Gotcha.
and the fire is just a fancy, very
Yeah.
it impresses people.
I think I'll leave
That's
my
got
fire on the
experience.
grill. And very
Yeah,
nice.
maybe someday.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll
It's
see.
it's not that hard, but it's interesting, and it's just another facet to learn and experience. How much you experience it. Is it really important? No. The main importance is what? Make sure you got enough penetration when you apply something. When you want to hit somebody or kick somebody, they they get kicked or hit. So you got to have application. When you can't apply what you got, just being able to throw it in good form is not good enough. It's good enough for a test, but it's not good enough to survive. So depending on your attitude, you got to, when it comes to survival on the street, you got to be able to, the rubber's got to meet the road.
Exactly.
You got to put some mustard on the hot dog, and if you don't have it, hey, you're going to be in a world of trouble. Ask anybody like, LeBounty, Kelly, Chappelle, all those guys were in the police force and stuff like that. You see stuff. So, yeah, it's not, it's knife fighting, another dangerous thing. I don't care how good you are, you're going to be cut. It's, we don't want to, and we'll certainly try not to, but, the odds are you probably are going to. If the guy's anywhere good at all, and even if he's not, if he's wild, you're dangerous, so the best thing is don't be there.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
get out of there. So let them call you a wimp, whatever. I share that with you. When I was I was talking to a student the other day, and they have a whole different perspective of me from where I started. I tell them the story. They go, "No, there's no way." Yeah, there's way. I was pretty much picked on and pushed around and you know took my pants off and threw them up on the basketball rim and yeah, I mean just just stuff kids do in high school. And did I want it to be me? No, I'd rather it be somebody else. But that's kind of drove me to probably getting better. And then afterwards, at some point, it got to be where it's not about me. It's about what can I do for Reggie. What I've done, how many people I've taught, celebrities I've worked with, really doesn't mean anything. What really matters is what I can help you with. That's my driving thing. It's how I can help the student. get better and survive and create confidence or help me with whatever, type thing. So that's my drive, today. It's not about being a grand poobah or any of that kind of thing. Who cares? What's important is what I can do for somebody else.
Very much. I like it. All right. So yeah, we have so many other things that I want to get to, but we'll have to save those for part 2 and 3 and 4 and however many we do in the future. But let's go ahead and move to. I've got a few little wrap up questions here, and we'll take it from there.
Well,
first one.
Just write your questions down, and
I'm going
if
to
there's
actually give them to you right now. We'll
if there's a
this is
second or
our
a third, we can
lightning.
always address it.
Yeah, this is our lightning round, so we'll just kind of go through these real quick, and then we'll close out for
Sure.
today. But first one being, do you have a favorite technique?
Oh gosh, not well. I mean, techniques are techniques. Techniques are nothing more than drills to develop skills, and so each one develops different skills. You know what I mean? So I mean, there's the classic 5 swords and Dance of Death and the Thundering Hammers and all the classic ones. But I don't know. I I like the ones that work. Some don't really work for me. I mean, they're good. They teach something, but I like a lot of 2-man attacks. Not because they're going to work, because they're never going to work on the street. There's never going to be a where you can take any of our 10 2-man attack techniques and the people be lined up exactly in the right position and be able to do all this stuff. It's not going to happen. But in learning to do them, you'll learn a lot of foot maneuvering and things that will kind of help you on the street. But as you progress, you're going to have to be able to instantaneously and on the spur of the moment, be able to, maneuver and pull off whatever you need. So you need those skills. And then you got to put your own techniques together, basically, so I like a lot of techniques. And there's a few I don't like, but they all have something to teach. Maybe I don't like them because I'm not good at them yet, or I'm resisting them for some reason. You know what I mean? They're not flashy.
Oh yeah, no, I can relate. I can relate. Yeah, very nice, very nice. Okay, next question being, do you have a favorite form and or set?
I Mr. Parker used to call the first 4 forms that we have, short one, long one, short 2, and long 2, the dictionaries to the system. Thus are my books. I got 2 books on those. Short 1 and long 1 is one, short 2 and long 2 is another. And what are they defining? Everybody knows a lot of people know that. You probably heard that they're the definitions, but then you ask people, what are they? What are they defining? And then people are going to start guessing, and then the short 3 and beyond are the encyclopedias of the system. And well, what are they actually doing? And then there's the sets, which are the appendices. And if you notice on the appendices, we have stances, stance set, blocks, blocking set, fingers, finger set, kicks, kicking set. So there's sets to back up the appendices for all the basic categories. If I were to choose a form, long 3s, I won a boatload of tournaments with. Long 3 and the 4 are good, and I like my form, the 2-man multi-assailant form. I like that because it's got a lot of really interesting stuff in it. So
Nice.
So I like that.
Very nice. I like it. Right, do you have a favorite weapon?
I started with the size. And then of course I went to Chuck's, then Sticks, and then I'm a weapons freak. I bought every weapon in sight. I'm more into the Chinese weapons than anything else, and probably my favorite long weapon is the crescent spear. It's got the two hooks on the sides
Oh, okay.
and a spear going up the middle. I like the three section staff. I mean, I like a lot of them. The hook swords are really good in a variety of. There must be 20 different types of swords. I had the deer horn swords. I mean, all kinds of. But the probably the hook swords, and as far as short range, I was real good with just a single darndo, just a plain saber, and students win boatload of tournaments with those things. But as far as flashy, I like the hook swords and I like the crescent spear. And I was good with the Kwando as well. If you know what that is.
Sounds familiar. Sorry.
Big giant blade. It was used to cut horses' legs
Oh
off.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now.
So it was usually a big guy's, weapon.
Yeah.
And there's axes and got it, just a bunch of them. But those were my favorites. Were those, almost all of the Chinese weapons. They were all cool. Yeah, I like the Krambit.
Oh yes.
As far as a effective gun. Where's my little dude here at? I got one here someplace.
Very nice.
So it's just a little bitty guy, but it's like a raptor claw, But I'll tell you what, you can
do some damage. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're a lot of fun.
Very cool.
And
Very cool.
these things are all extensions of yourself anyway. So.
Yeah, I like it. Right. So then the final question here: if there is anyone that you could train with, living or dead, fictional or non-fictional, who would that be? Besides Ed Parker.
Well, you knew what I was going to say. Ed Parker was key inspiration in a lot of areas with a lot of things. Other than that, my dad was a great. He wasn't a martial artist, but he taught me so much about building and business and things like that. So I wish he was still around. He died back in '97. So I miss my dad. But other than that, a martial artist. God, I've been around a lot of them. I probably wish I could have been around Elvis more. I think Elvis and I would have had a lot of fun. Mr. Parker then concurred. He said, "You guys, because you're a jokester, I like to tease a lot, and I'm very sarcastic a lot of times. So I think we would have had a lot of fun. And we're very philanthropic, although he's got or had a boatload of money more than I did. I mean, I can't go away giving away Cadillacs, but he certainly did. But he would be one guy. But other than that, probably the one person that I'd really, there's a couple. Abe Lincoln would be one that I would love to talk to. I'd love to talk to George Washington, who was American before there was an American, But before that, probably the head the top of the list would be Jesus Christ. And so, being a Christian, I think that would probably be the pinnacle of my things that I would want to, be able to talk to, and not after in the afterlife. But I'd rather have him now. Yeah,
Yeah.
But that's one. So that'll give you some insights, I guess, into Dennis.
Yeah, no, I like it. That's a great answer. Great answer there. All right, so we are now at our final point here. It's time for shameless self-promotion. So you can say anything you like, or if you want to plug anything, or just anything else that you want to put out there, and then you have the floor, and then we'll close out for today.
No, I appreciate what you're doing, and I'm humbly an acceptance of the ability that, you would ask me to, be able to talk to you. So I certainly appreciate that. And I honor you in that regard. So I think it's a good thing that you do. As far as things go, I'm the head of my organization, which is IKKO, International Kempo Karate Organization. But other than that, I'm available for lessons. I do lessons over the internet, so mostly guys that are experienced. Beginners, it's too hard to teach a white belt, without being there. You got to actually be hands-on. Guys that have been around for a while, it's a little bit easier. It's still not the greatest. It's always better face-to-face, mano-a-mano, because sometimes you got to feel it, so it's good. But other than that, that's good. So I've got time right now for probably 2 or 3 more people, but they got to be serious, got to be able to want to empty their cup and listen, and if so, they're going to probably learn something, so that's my obligation to Ed Parker, actually, is to pass on what he so graciously gave me.
Very good. Yeah, no, I like it. I like it. No, yes, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today, and we'll definitely have to do this again and get into some other points that we weren't able to get to today. But yeah, no, I just can't thank you enough for being on, and can't wait to get this out for everyone to hear. And yeah, just thank you again so much. Thank you for listening to My Empty Hands. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a friend. If you didn't enjoy it, please share it with an enemy. If you'd like to be a guest, or if you would like to recommend a guest for the show, please email me at podcast@talkingkempo.com. Thank you.